Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update video today. We'll have a bit of a chat while I go for a walk along this magnificent coastline that you can see behind me here in central Portugal, which is a magnificent part of the world, I must say. And that's something we're going to chat about today also, because some people have accused me of being a Portugal hater. That is not the case, as you guys know, so I will clarify that as the video goes on. I'm joined today by my faithful companion Mia, who is as usual by my side. I'll just turn the camera around so that you can see her. There she is, the little dog here standing on the rocks. We went to the grooming center the other day and 20 euros later, that is the result. She's had her facial hair cut, so she's looking quite good at the moment, is young Mia. So let's start the walk. Now it's about 20 degrees Celsius currently, a nice day. There's a bit of a breeze blowing, not as strong as it was the other day, but one of the things that I love about this part of Portugal is the temperature. It never gets too hot, although it is quite humid, as you can imagine, because of the ocean conditions. Over here to my right we have some of the best houses in this area. We can see the size of the houses there with the magnificent views that they have. We'll just turn the camera around so you can see the views that these people enjoy. And of course for these houses here, don't know how much you would pay, but probably around €1,000,000 for one of those houses, I would say. Now as I said, I'm taking the coastal route today. Had a few complaints the other day that the images weren't very attractive, that the area that I walked through wasn't all that good looking, and it's a little bit ugly, I must admit. This part of Portugal, this city here, Peniche, is not the most attractive city in Portugal. A lot of the houses are a bit run down. You can definitely see that. But that's also something that I like. It gives the place a bit of character. But for me, this part of Portugal is all about the views and the Atlantic Ocean, as you guys know. So the main piece of news today is again inflation. Inflación in Spanish, inflação in Portuguese, and of course July figures have been published, or they have been made available, and inflation in Spain currently sitting at 10.8% on last year's figures, so that's interannual inflation, and here in Portugal around 9%. So both countries, not only Spain and Portugal, but the European Union in general, has a serious inflation problem at the moment. And it seems that though government measures to curb inflation don't seem to be working. The government has announced, as we know, various measures over the last 4 or 5 months in order to tackle high inflation, but nothing seems to be working. And every month it goes up and up, and I imagine the government is desperate to find the solution. The Spanish government announced a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, an extraordinary tax on banks and energy companies in order to get something like 7 billion euros into the coffers at the expense of these companies. They also passed a law, or they're going to pass a law, that won't allow those companies to pass the costs onto consumers. We'll see if that happens. And the banks and the energy companies have spoken in recent days. The president of Banco Santander is not happy. The CEO of Banco Santander is not happy. The president of the main energy company in Spain, or the CEO of that company, Iberdrola, is not happy. So big companies not happy with the government at the moment. And of course this has turned into a political fight as well. The Partido Popular, the main opposition party, are trying to prove that they are the main opposition alternative in Spain, and of course they are attacking the government at every opportunity because of all of these problems that the country is going through at the moment. And of course they are not in favor of that extraordinary tax on those companies, and the banks have come out and said that it is going to affect credit. Something like 50 billion euros worth of credit will be affected, so the average consumer, the average company, might not be able to access credit as easily easily as it would have been able to do if this tax did not exist. So the banks and the energy companies on the front foot and taking it to the government. And Prime Minister Sanchez came out yesterday and said that if these companies are complaining, then the government must be doing something good. And the opposition accusing the government of being a modern day Robin Hood, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. What's your opinion? Let us know. Now, the energy crisis also on the agenda. Prime Minister Sanchez on the front foot again yesterday, announcing more measures, especially when it comes to air conditioning and heating in public buildings, shopping centres, businesses and public transport. And the government has decided to put limits on these two things, air conditioning and heating. Apparently air conditioning can't be below 27 degrees Celsius. They're going to pass a law soon that will prohibit companies, public transport and government buildings and the like to lower that air conditioning below 27 degrees. And when it comes to heating, the maximum is going to be 19 degrees Celsius. Now, I don't know how much of an impact this is going to have. Of course, how can you control private companies when it comes to measures like this? I've got no idea, but the government thinks that they will be able to do it. So we'll see. And air conditioning set at 27 degrees when it's probably normally around 23, 24. So are we going to notice those extra 4 degrees on public transport when we catch a bus or the metro? We'll see. Pedro Sanchez, as we know, wants the mantle of world leader when it comes to climate change. So he's announcing all of these new measures to tackle that problem. And he also said that it would be a good idea if Spanish business people, Spanish businessmen, stopped wearing neckties. So another brilliant idea from Pedro Sanchez to tackle climate change and hot weather. Certainly a nice way to spend your Saturday, sailing on the Atlantic Ocean. Now it's time to address the elephant in the room, the Spain-Portugal tourism debate. Which is the better country? As we know, a lot of people in the UK are saying that they're going to avoid Spain. They're not happy with the rules and regulations. They're going to head to Portugal instead. And I have noticed a big British presence in this part of the world. And I said the other day that Spain and Portugal, you can't really compare the two countries when it comes to tourism. A few people accuse me of being a Portugal hater, that I'm working for the Spanish government trying to put people off coming to this part of the world, and they couldn't be further from the truth. My point is, or the point that I was trying to make the other day, is that when it comes to tourism, there's a lot more things that you can do in Spain than you can do in Portugal. And that's basically because of the size difference of the two countries. Spain is a huge country, Portugal is a small country, and therefore you are limited, in my opinion, to what you can do here. Now don't get me wrong, I love Portugal, I love coming here, I love spending time here, I love spending money in this country when it comes to tourism, and for me Portugal is a fantastic country. But the point I was trying to make the other day was that if you go to a country like Spain and you've got 10 days, you can get a lot more done in Spain in 10 days than you can here. For example, here in Portugal there's only two big cities, Lisbon and Porto. There are more medium-sized cities, like the one that I put in a video the other day, Caldas. And of course there are cities that have maybe 50, 60, 70,000 people here in Portugal. But in Spain there are a lot more cities that offer a lot more things to do and see. And the example that I gave was Andalusia, where you have at least 4 World Heritage Site cities, places that are very, very interesting to see and visit. You could probably spend 10 days, 12 days, 2 weeks in Andalusia trying to get everything in, whereas here, probably in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the whole country's done and dusted. Whereas in Spain, in that amount of time, you're only just starting. And if you're looking for beach tourism, you can't compare the two countries. And again, the size is fundamental. An endless amount of beaches in Spain, starting in Catalonia, going all the way along the Mediterranean Mediterranean coast into the Atlantic down there in Huelva. And of course you've got the north of the country as well, Galicia, all the way around to the Basque Country. So beach tourism, sun and sand tourism, you can't compare the two. And when it comes to cultural diversity, don't get me started, because in my opinion, there's a lot more of it in Spain than there is here in Portugal. Yes, Portugal does have variety, but nothing like you will find in Spain. So just setting the record straight on that and putting it out there that I don't hate Portugal, but I think that when it comes to tourism, as I said, you can't compare the two countries. But again, that's just my opinion. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. If you've got something to add to the topics that we spoke about today, whether it's the energy crisis, the way the Spanish government is handling various crises at the moment, please let us know in that comment section below. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego, ate log.